As far as I can tell, about 50% of the comments I get on this channel are either about my voice or about my facial hair. So, discuss. Discuss to your heart's content. That being said, the thing I would like to discuss tonight is the importance of consistency over cramming. You ever crammed for a test in high school or college? Where you try to pack as much information in your head the night before so that you can spit it right back out again at test time, but in the long run you don't remember any of it. Well, cramming for tests is not an effective way to get an education, and trying to cram for martial arts is not an effective way to train to fight. I've received a string of comments lately that went something like this. This martial artist, or this type of martial artists, trains for 16 hours a day, bashing their heads against a wall to develop strong iron heads, or this famous martial artist from yesteryear practiced 24 hours a day without sleeping. And those are terrible ideas for a number of reasons. Those sound like hyperboles, but these are what people are saying. But yeah, there is this idea that there are monks up on mountains that live in these monasteries, and all they do is this hardcore training every day that would kill normal humans. Or that a guy like Bruce Lee, all he ever did was train all day constantly, and so that's what a hardcore fighter should do. And that's nonsense. No. If you cannot get your training in a 90-minute session, or a 1-hour session, or a 2-hour session, 2 hours top. I should say 2 sessions a day tops. But if you cannot get the type of training that you need to excel in your martial art, to excel as a fighter, to excel in the sport of MMA or boxing or kickboxing or wrestling or jiu-jitsu, in that time frame you are doing junk training. You're wasting your time. Improvement does not come from repetition to repetition. It comes from sleep to sleep. A friend of ours sent me an email today, and he has been training in jiu-jitsu for about a month. And he's very frustrated. He trains at his college, I believe, twice a week. And it seems to him like everybody there is much more experienced than he is. Everybody's squashing him. He doesn't feel like he can do anything. He's getting really frustrated at the process right now. And that's understandable. I think everybody who does jiu-jitsu who isn't a prodigy, which is most people, feel that way after a month of jiu-jitsu. I remember feeling that way. I think everybody who strapped on a belt and a gi and got on the mat and attempted submission grappling under that format felt that way. But he feels like he's this massive underdog and he's not getting the level and the volume of experience that he needs. He says he doesn't even have a grappling dummy at the dojo, at his college, or the gym, or wherever he trains. And I'm going to give you a quick tip for that. See this thing I'm wearing? Sweatshirt. Okay. You don't need an expensive online dummy. If you can get one, great. But this thing, it's got 2 arms. And it's got a head. Get some other clothes. Stuff this thing. Zip it up. And you got yourself a makeshift grappling dummy with a head and a neck and 2 arms that you can armbar and shoulder lock, and neck you can choke. But just stuff it up. Tie it up. Instant homemade grappling dummy. Instead of focusing on what you cannot do, focus on what you can do. Focus on what you will do. Focus on what you must do. Improvement does not come from repetition to repetition. It comes from sleep to sleep. You do not excel at martial arts by spending 16 hours up on a mountaintop, bashing your head up against a wall or kicking a tree over and over and over again. There is a point of diminishing returns in our training. You will wear down the body, and more importantly, you'll wear down the mind. Some point around the 2-hour mark. The best fighters in the world, look at their training regimen. Most of them do 2-a-days. One session in the morning or the early afternoon, another session a few hours later, one of those sessions covering strength and conditioning, another session covering technique and sparring. And those sessions are 90 minutes, sometimes an hour, sometimes 2 hours. Not usually longer than that. Why? Because again, there is a point of diminishing returns in the training we put into it. Take, for example, a speed bag. It's a great piece of equipment, and I love it. But most people, almost everybody, when they first get on that speed bag and they try to work it, try to do what they saw Rocky do in the movies, it doesn't work. Why not? It's complicated. It's a fairly complex motion. It takes some practice. There's a species of monkey that lives on an island. I don't remember what they're called. Somebody tell me in the comments down below if you know, if you study monkeys. But these monkeys eat coconuts, and they break the coconuts with rocks. They find a big, nice, round, heavy rock, and they find a big flat rock to stand on. They put the coconut on the flat rock, and they bash it with the big, round, heavy rock until it opens. Simple, right? Simple mechanical process. So simple a child could do it, right? But, it takes the monkeys about 3 years to learn this simple tool. They learn by watching the monkeys who know how, and they practice and they copy it, and they mess it up a whole bunch of times over and over again until eventually these young monkeys learn the process in about 3 years, and then they can feed themselves. And this is a true principle that us humans also abide by. Trial and error and practice. Repetition on one day, and then we sleep on it, and our mind repairs and builds new pathways and becomes more capable, and you wake up smarter the next day, and you pick up that rock the next day, you try again, and you fail a bunch of times, but you learn a few things. You take those errors, you toss them in the garbage. That's why I always say a heavy bag is a receptacle. It's a garbage receptacle. It's a garbage can for your garbage technique that you're going to throw away. You go in the gym and you throw your garbage technique into that garbage can that is the heavy bag. And you come back the next day and you throw more of your garbage out there. So you don't take your garbage into the ring with you. But finding that inner garbage within you is not a one-day process. It is a process that takes many, many years, and you got to keep doing it. I have 2 small children, and cleaning up after them is a process. You got to do that day to day. Otherwise, the house ends up looking like a tornado went through it pretty quickly. Daily maintenance is absolutely key. So my friend over at the university taking jiu-jitsu getting frustrated. This might not sound like the advice you want, but be patient. 1 month is nothing in jiu-jitsu. It's a drop in the bucket. And comparing yourself to others is a very frustrating thing to do. Because you are not others. You are you, my friend. Remember the old axiom of Jigoro Kano, the founder of Kodokan Judo. What was it he said? something along the lines of, do not try to be better than your opponent, be better than yesterday. Fall down 7 times, stand up 8. How's that possible? Well, you just keep standing up every time you fall down. Don't overthink it, math nerds. Don't overthink it. Fall down 7 times, stand up 8. Stand up 1 more time, then you fall down. And take the time to breathe. Do not be afraid of silences. It's been a while since I gave a long, pregnant pause like that in one of these videos. But that, if you are feeling anxiety, embrace the sound of silence, man. Silence is not your enemy. Spend some time in silence. Unplug. Go on a walk, man. Experience a moving meditation. People often ask me if I meditate, and do I sit around cross-legged, going or whatever, clearing my mind? Nah, I've tried that. But at this point in my life, I kind of feel like that's a waste of my time. But moving meditation, man, that's huge for me. What is a moving meditation? Experiencing unity between the mind, the body, and the soul, which is all one thing. But throughout our lives, we try to separate them and compartmentalize them in some really stupid ways. Put them together. Try a moving meditation. When you get better at jiu-jitsu can be a moving meditation for you. But right now it's probably like, I'm getting squished, or I don't want to squish this guy because I'm too big and too strong, and I don't have that level of control. That's something our friend wrote about, feeling like he lacked a certain level of control, and he was afraid of perhaps injuring his training partners. And that's an important level of self-awareness that you have. Good for you. Good that you recognize that. At the same time, I often have the experience of a new student coming into the gym and rolling with me, or trying to roll with me, or trying to spar with me, and saying something along the lines of, I don't want to hurt you, and just being the absolute most wimpy, worthless training partner ever. And I say that with love. I don't want to hurt you, to which I usually respond, don't worry, you won't, you can't. I had my shoulder dislocated the other week while sparring. A bad fall off a good takedown. If you're worried about doing something like that to your training partners, understand that's what they signed up for. A sport that comes with risks. Obviously, you're not going to go in there to be a mat bully to break people's arms and dislocate their shoulders, but understand that is something that can and does happen. And eventually you will hurt someone, and eventually someone will hurt you. Probably lots and lots of times, and it's going to be accidental and incidental. But it will happen. Accept that. Don't fear it. Accept the fact that you are going to die. You are going to perish from off this earth. Probably not in jiu-jitsu class. But one day, this body will meet its end. And embrace that. And take some joy in that. Because it's not the end of the world, my friends. I'd like to think of death as the beginning rather than the end. A new beginning rather than an end. So what does that have to do with being frustrated being the new guy in the gym? Well, kind of went on a tangent there, but I like to ride the tangents, man. Be patient with the process. Take some joy in the journey. Those sound like fortune cookie phrases. They kind of are, but every once in a while the fortune cookie phrase is pretty cool. The last fortune cookie I ever opened. And they don't have fortune cookies here in China, unfortunately, because they're kind of awesome and I love them. But back in the United States, I went to this Chinese buffet the last time I was there, last time I lived there, over 10 years ago. And I opened up this fortune cookie and it said, "Among the lucky, you are the chosen one. Hater Sensei Grandmaster Chosen One." I love that title, man. So as your hater Grandmaster Sensei Chosen One, or whatever that was, let me hit you with some knowledge. Go to jiu-jitsu class twice a week like you are. Roll, get squished. And then do it again, get squished some more, do it again, get squished some more. And if this is the only exposure to jiu-jitsu that you have, it's going to take a few years before you get any good at jiu-jitsu, and that's fine and that's normal. And eventually there will come these small moments. You asked in your letter something along the lines of, will there be a day where I can just be like, oh, I know how to armbar this guy now. I can catch him. Yeah. But you're going to have smaller epiphanies. Smaller moments of awakening. When those synapses in your brain finally click. They knit together and you're like, oh, if I do this, then that will happen. I got to tweak it a little bit. Trial and error, man. We like to think we're more advanced than a monkey, but it's the same exact process as those little monkeys on that island, breaking coconuts with rocks. It takes them 3 years to be able to feed themselves basic food. How long should it take you before you can pull off a armbar, which is a complex motor movement against a fully resisting opponent? Pound for pound, monkeys are a lot more athletic than humans, like a lot. I wish I had a link to it, but there's this great video compilation of monkeys, like little monkeys doing flying jump kicks on humans, knocking them down, knocking them off motorcycles. It's hilarious and awesome and kind of terrifying how incredibly powerful these tiny animals are. I'm kind of jealous of monkeys as far as their athletic attributes go. So don't laugh at them for taking 3 years to learn how to break a coconut with a rock. So nobody's laughing at you for taking your time learning how to do an armbar against somebody who already knows how to wrestle, or somebody who already knows judo, or somebody who's been doing jiu-jitsu for 3 or 4 or 5 years. I'm rooting for you, man. I'm in your corner right here. That's tough. That's a fight. That is a fight to get to that point. And I am in the business of helping fighters win fights. That is my job. That is my job description to the letter. I think the younger we are, and the more time we have on our hands, the less time it appears that we have on our hands. My small children, their age 4 and 7, they're very impatient. They have potentially their whole lives ahead of them. They might live to 100 years old, who knows? I hope so. But they act like if they don't get what they want now, their life is over. It's done. Because 5 minutes to a 4-year-old is a significant percentage of their lifespan. Man, when you're in your 40s, not so much. 5 minutes, 5 minutes. Everybody has 5 minutes. I can wait for 5 minutes. You can wait for 5 minutes. He has 5 minutes. She has 5 minutes. But I'm a lot closer to the end of my days than my children are. So why am I so much more patient, man? Because I've been there and I've done that. I understand the process. They don't. They haven't had that experience yet. And at this point, neither of you. So you are seeing this uphill battle from that lens of looking up and how hard it is and how impossible it is. And I'm looking back like, yeah, I know it looks tough when you're down there, but when you get up here, it doesn't look so hard. There are 3 types of training partners you need to get really good at jiu-jitsu. And it sounds like right now you have one, which is just people who can squash you. And those are really important. You need people who are better than you. And you need to spend a lot of time rolling with people who are better than you. But you also need people at your same level, and you need some people that you can squish. People you can crush, people you can just practice your technique on without worrying about getting squished and crushed and, punished for your mistakes. But it's going to take a while before you get to that level. You're going to have to invest maybe a couple of years before you get to that level where you can pull aside a brand new white belt, walking in on day 1 and say, hey, can we roll? And you take some risks and you do some weird stuff. You try out a technique you saw on the internet or whatever, or the new thing your coach taught you in class that he wants you to work on but you're not quite sure about. So you try it with the new guy. So you can do it against a realistic level of resistance, but at a level that you can work with and cope with in case you make a mistake, which you will. You'll make a lot of mistakes. My friend Dan Lucart, he is a black belt, teaches at Brea Jiu-Jitsu, awesome gym, awesome coach. Go check him out if you're in Southern California and the Los Angeles area. He's been posting on Facebook lately these short video clips of him rolling with some of his white belts and trying out some kind of goofy, crazy, off-the-wall stuff that he's never done before. And in these posts, he says, instead of drilling, this is what I do. I practice this new stuff that I'm working on, that I'm hashing out in my mind with these new guys so that I can get a realistic level of resistance, but so I don't get squished and crushed or whatever when I goof up, which I do most of the time. And this is a very good black belt. A coach of some really, really good jiu-jitsu practitioners. I hope that encourages you instead of the opposite. If you're thinking, oh man, if a great black belt coach is floundering around after over a decade of experience, what hope do I have? Never stop playing around in jiu-jitsu, man. Never stop playing around in jiu-jitsu. Never stop playing. That's how we learn how to fight. I mean, watch any other animal. Watch dogs. How do dogs learn how to fight, how to survive? What? Same thing wolves do. They play fight. They play with each other. How does a cat teach a human how to hunt? Did you know cats do that? You ever have a pet cat that brings you a mostly dead mouse or a dead animal or an injured bird or something like that and drops it at your feet? And a lot of people think, oh, look, my cat is bringing me a present. Well, that's kind of cute and gross and creepy at the same time. I had this big, fluffy black cat when I was a kid. One day it brought a half-dead crow in the house, and it drops it on the floor at my feet. Suddenly the crow comes alive, starts flapping its wings, feathers are flying out, blood's coming out. It's disgusting, it's crazy, the crow's flying everywhere, it's huge. It's like almost bigger than the cat. I don't know how the cat wrestled it to the ground and brought it in the house, but it did. And my mom starts screaming, "Throw these animals out of my house right this instant." Anyway, why do cats do that? They're trying to teach you how to hunt because they think you're a crappy hunter. They see that you don't know how to kill your own food. And so what do? They're trying to teach you by bringing an injured animal in, saying, "Hey, look man, I'm trying to do you a solid here. I did most of the work for you. I did the groundwork. So I want you to finish the job. Go ahead. Get that bird. Go on. I know you can do it." So that's how cats teach each other. That's how cats try to teach humans. Because they think they're the alpha in that relationship. That's an interesting thing about felines. Dogs are different. Dogs play fight. And they'll play fight with you when they're puppies especially. They'll try to chew on things. They'll jump on you. They're playing. But at the same time, they're practicing combative movements. And that is how good jiu-jitsu players, high-level jiu-jitsu players also learn. We play fight. We often call it sparring or rolling, but that's what it is. It's play fighting. And if you ever lose that playfulness, and I'm not saying keep it playful or keep it friendly like, the Henner and Hiron Gracie do, because I got some issues with the way they state that. Or maybe I don't. Maybe I just have issues with their old online belt program. I definitely have issues with that, but don't lose sight of the fun of it. Because once it stops being fun, that's when people start leaving the gym. And if you leave the gym, you don't learn jiu-jitsu, man. I often say if you miss the fun, you miss everything, man. So you need those 3 types of training partners. How are you going to get them? I'm going to tell you one more thing in this video, this very long video, where I've gone all over the place on you. And that one more thing is this. Tell other people about your jiu-jitsu class. You're at a college, I assume there are other people at this college. Probably a lot of them. I went to college, there were a bunch of people out there. A lot of people I didn't know. Thousands of them. Tens of thousands of them. I think there were like 38,000 people at my university I went to. Maybe you go to a smaller school, but there are probably other people out there. I guarantee there are people there. And you mention in your letter, I don't have anyone to train with outside of class. Go find some. Go make some friends. Have a conversation with a stranger about jiu-jitsu every day. There's a great book called How to Sell Your Book. I don't remember who wrote it, but it was written before the days of the internet. How to sell a book without the internet. That's a different thing, man. That's a whole different animal than marketing something today. But the primary message was have a conversation with a new person every single day about your book. Tell somebody else why you're excited about this book, why you wrote this book, what this book means to you, and have that conversation every day with a new person. Do that with jiu-jitsu. Because as an individual, you need an actual physical person to train with. You need a bunch of them. So if you want to have extra training sessions outside of class, get some extra people. Get some extra friends. Be a friend to everyone, man. Open your mouth about it. It's one thing for me to say, get out there and train, but I'm going to tell you something else. Get out there and open your mouth and have that conversation every single day with a new person about the thing you want to get good at. And you will find some other people along the way who have those same goals. Other people who will think, well, wait a minute, I want to get good at that too. Let's do this together. And some of those people are going to end up being your closest and dearest friends. And they're going to change your life in the most positive ways. But you got to seek them out. You got to open your mouth. One of the big delusions, I think, that is spread by the martial arts class model is this. We have everything you need at this gym. We have all the right coaches, all the right equipment, all the right classes. And a lot of gyms have a lot of great stuff just like that. But the most important thing that any gym has is the people there, your training partners. Because without them, none of it happens. So get out there and have that conversation every single day with a new person. Thank you for watching. Now get out there and train.